Don't forget, ko-fi.com/stopwritingalone is a real simple way to show your support for what's going on here week after week. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast for writers who are looking for their writing community. I know you want to find readers for your work, but I think your first step is to connect with other writers. That's what we're going to do here in the Stop Writing Alone podcast. We'll do writing prompts and other writing group activities, discover online writing communities, learn how to find local writing groups, or how to make your own. Join us as we explore, learn, and write. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. It is the end of January, and that means one thing here at Stop Writing Alone. Stop Writing Alone is 1 year old. No one's happier than me. Can't believe I did it, and I'm really excited, and I'm so happy you're here, and so many of you have been here for the entire year, and I cannot thank you enough. This has been a wonderful first year, and I have learned so much, and I have connected with so many people. I am not writing alone anymore at any time, and that's a beautiful thing, and I hope many of you have converted from writing alone and have found your people, whether it's me or others in the community or other communities that you've been introduced to over the course of this year, but there's so much more to come. I already have a bunch of interviews lined up for what I'm calling 2020, as if 2020 hasn't been going on for a month now. So I'm looking forward to having so many more new conversations with people that I've known, that I want to introduce you to, people that I'm just meeting. It's just going to be a wonderful year moving ahead. One of the things that got added on at the end of this year, which I've discussed a couple of times, is that Stop Writing Alone has its own Instagram account. And I've been having a lot of fun connecting with the first followers over there, because the Stop Writing Alone is a very small Instagram account right now, since I had so many people following me on NV_Rivera. Not many people have come over, so it's been a really nice, tight-knit conversation. But one thing that I'm doing there weekly is every Wednesday sharing a writing class, sort of like exercise or prompt. It's from the Writer's Devotional. If you have that book, you know that every single day of the week has a different theme. One week is writers on writing, and one day of the week is inspiration. So it's all different things. And Wednesday is the writing class. So it's just like a small little exercise to do once a week. And I decided that I was going to start doing them myself. And I said, why not share it on Instagram? So each Wednesday, if you follow at Stop Writing Alone on Instagram, you'll see a picture of the page and then whatever the heck I come up with for that week's assignment. And this week was an interesting challenge, because it was sharing a one panel comic of a haircut story. And so it was interesting because, as I said on Instagram, it's kind of like a microfiction piece and also this drawing aspect, although the prompt does say like it could be stick figures. We're not really looking at the drawing here. It's more about how to convey a story in this one panel. But it's either way, very interesting challenges every single week. So I thought I would share that with you if you wanted to just have a quick little writing experiment once a week. So those were a couple of announcements and celebrations of where I'm at right now. But that is actually not the theme of today's episode. This may sound strange, but today I'd like to talk to you about geese. Back when I was teaching, we had this big talk one day. It was, I guess, a professional development, and our principal brought in the story of the geese and the lessons that we learn from geese. And I want to share those lessons with you today. Because since this podcast is all about writing community, writing groups, and building that community to support us in our great endeavor to be successful writers, these lessons of the geese are very important to that type of community building. So, perhaps you know this already, but in case you don't, or in case you just need a reminder, as I did, I'd like to go through it today. So where did this come from? This morning I was taking a walk and a flock of geese flew over my head, and I remembered this great lesson from the geese. And it was so poignant because I realized that I am currently flying with a really cool flock. I have found my geese. So who are your geese? Your geese are the group of people who may be writers or other creatives or your writing group. Many times your family, because there's different flocks for different parts of your life that are there to support you in your flying forward. So for today's episode, we're going to talk about flying forward in our writing and the different things that we can do to support one another in our communities and in our groups. But this does apply to all things. Like I said, you can have a flock in your family, you can have a flock in your business, you can have a flock in your parenting or dating life, when we are struggling through that. God, it's sad to say struggling through. It should be a fun time. But here's what we know about geese. If you live in a place like here in New York, we have geese, and at this time of year, they're all over the place making noise and flying in their V's because they're getting out of town. Right now, the geese are out of here. And that is actually one of the lessons that we learned from the geese. The geese are seeing that it's getting darker. I mean, it's been getting darker, but right now it's getting much colder because our winter started a little bit late in terms of weather and temperature. And so now that they're feeling that shift, they're saying, you know what? I need to get out of here. I need to go on vacation. I need to fly south. This isn't a very important lesson to get from geese. And it's kind of usually what I save for last, but it is something that we need to pick up from our geese. When it is time to rest, it is time to rest. And sometimes you need to just fly south and give yourself a break. I was interacting with somebody on Instagram just this week who was feeling guilty about her not writing. She was reading and she said, I just feel like it's not time yet and I'm not getting inspired. And she felt the guilt. And I said, you know what? You need the rest. You need the rest. Read more, consume more story, let your muse rest and come back to it. Of course, this is somebody who's a beginner writer, not somebody that's on a deadline from a publisher or an editor. So she has that luxury. And while we have that luxury, we want to give it to ourselves. But even if you are on a deadline and you have an editor or a publisher or whoever it is you're working for, you need an article to be set in, you have got to then be very vigilant about incorporating those rests in. You almost have to schedule them alongside your deadlines to make sure that you don't go too far into all of your energy supplies. This is a very important lesson from the geese. They know when winter comes, they fly south. Why? They need it. They will not survive if they keep hanging out in places that are trying on their system. So if you are producing deadline after deadline after deadline and not giving yourself that rest, you could run into a burnout situation. So, very important lesson from the geese. And that is more of a personal lesson, whereas the rest of the lessons are more about community. So, why not? We'll get that one out of the way. Make sure you fly south when you need to. And it may be on a schedule, just like the geese do. The big lesson from the geese is, in terms of community, is how they fly south. If you watch geese fly, they form a V. This is not accidental. This is the sharing of the load of the flight. So that goose that's up in front, the one that's the point of the V, the leader is taking on the brunt of the work while they're flying there, because they are going head on into the winds, into the weather. And as they flap their wings, they are creating kind of like an uplift in the air for all of the geese behind them. And then the second goose has a little bit less to deal with. And as they flap their wings, they're making it a little bit easier on the third geese that are on each side, and so on. So that as they fly, it has been measured that they are actually flying with 70% more efficiency in this formation than they would if they were flying on their own. It is really important when you find a good group of people to support you in your endeavor that you share the load, that you're not always looking to one person to be the leader of all things. A community is where that load is shared. And actually, the second lesson from the geese shows us that the leadership is shared, because what ends up happening is, of course, if that goose is up front taking on all of the wind and rain and clouds and everything that gets in the way for this trip, eventually, of course, this single goose is going to become very tired. So it's not like the whole flock decides, oh, leader guy is tired, we need to land and wait until he rests. That would be a complete waste of time. The geese, they got somewhere to go. They got to keep moving. So what do you do if you have to keep moving? You share the leadership. When that front goose becomes extremely tired, well, he knows that just going to the back of the V is going to alleviate a lot of the stress of the flight. So he'll rotate back and someone else will come up to the front, taking on the brunt of the flight. And this continues as the geese migrate all the way south or when they're flying back north. This is something that happens naturally in really, really well-built communities because we are humans and we see each other and we know that sometimes somebody is having a rough day and they need, a moment, and somebody else will take on the cheerleading of the team or the group or what have you. This is all very present in my mind right now because I have, as you know, we're here in Stop Writing Alone and we have the SWAP 52 group, but I also have a group of women that I have been quote unquote meeting with online, and we all keep naturally doing this sort of rotation. We're having our good days, our bad days. We're, completely honest with each other as to where we're at, and it just seems to happen that when somebody's having a not great day, somebody else steps in and says, okay, but we are going to get through this, right? Because you told me yesterday that I'm going to get through this, and now I'm here to show up for you. This is powerful community. When you can find a group of people that can do that and have that conversation with you and step in when you need to step back, then you will never stop flying forward. And to that end, the geese go even a step further. There are times, of course, when a goose is completely done. Not done, not life-ending done, but they're really sick or very tired and just cannot continue to fly for one reason or another. And so scientists studied this. They're like, well, what the heck happens when the goose is out, needs to land? The flock does not stop flying forward. They've got a place to go. They need to go. They have to be ahead of the weather to keep the whole group safe. However, the flock never leaves a goose behind. When a single goose falls down or lands to recover, 2 geese from the flock go down with it. 2 healthy geese go down with it to protect it and stay with it until it recovers to a point that it can then fly again and catch up with the flock, which they do together. This is amazing stuff. And you've experienced this in different parts of your life where either you just needed a moment or maybe somebody else, whether it's in your family or your group of friends or in your writing community, and it is our natural tendency to reach out and say, how I want to be here with you. Let me stay with you and help lift you up. How does this happen in writing community? Well, when you have a regular community of people that are meeting and sharing their work and sharing critique, there comes a time when somebody's either experiencing a block or there's just a lot going on in their lives, and you notice that they're just not showing up with their writing. Maybe they're not submitting things to be critiqued. Maybe they're not participating in your write-ins. Maybe they're not participating in writing prompt exercises or whatever it is that you do. To follow the lesson of the geese, what you need to do is reach out to this person. How are you doing? What's going on? Is there anything you need from us? This is important, basic, like human stuff, but it is also important for our writing growth. Because when we do that, when we reach out to another writer in that moment and find them where they are, first and foremost, we're building that connection even deeper than it was in the first place. And secondly, we are starting to learn about the ebbs and flows of our own creative output. What are the things that get in the way? And how can we work together to guard against them? Because once you're there for that person, then of course they're going to be there for you. And this is how you create your flock. If you're still writing alone and you're listening to this podcast saying, I want to stop writing alone, I just don't know how, you need to step out and be there for someone else. That whole do unto others, right? It's the golden rule. And once you show up for someone, I mean, if you've ever had anyone show up for you, you know. You're always got that person on your radar. You're always thinking, are they all right? I want to make sure that I am there for them in the same way they could be there for me. These are little things. And whether you're in an in-person writing group or a virtual writing group, it can be done. If you're in an in-person writing group and someone's not showing or what have you, you reach out. Is everything okay? How are you doing? If you're in a virtual writing group, same thing. Same thing. It's so simple. In this age of technology, there are so many different ways that we can reach out to one another. The last and the happiest of lessons from the geese is the honking. They're loud, right? If you live near geese, you hear them and you're like, oh, you could be inside your house, like in your basement, and you will hear the geese flying over your house. Oh, there they go. They must be going south or coming back, whatever it is. So what are they honking about? What's going on there? When the scientists started studying the geese, what they discovered is that the geese that are honking are the ones in the back. They are honking, and when they do so, it gives more energy to the geese in the front. They're basically cheerleading the people. They're basically cheerleading the geese that are working the hardest. So there are geese in the front that are working very hard in terms of flying and flapping their wings and taking on that work. And the geese in the back that have an easier flight are at least expending energy cheering on the geese in the front. So every goose in the flock has a role in encouragement and uplift and helping out everyone. It's just wonderful. It's just really, really cool. And I wish for every single person listening to have their geese. When you are in an environment where you truly have this type of community, you are unstoppable. You just keep flying. You just keep flying. So I want you to find your geese. And I think the first step is, if you are out there alone and you are writing and you're looking for connection, first look for community. Again, we have Stop Writing Alone. We have Swap 52 Club. But we learned about Write Stuff on Twitter. That's hashtag Write Stuff, run by Tamara Woods. We learned about the 10-Minute Novelist by Catherine Grubb. She's on Facebook. I think she might still be on Twitter. We learned about Morgan Dragonwillow's group, the Octpo Rimo. If you're a poet, you want to connect with Morgan and her people. So these are all different people that we spoke to in the year that have communities built around them, and you want to reach out to these types of communities. There's all different types of Twitter chats going on. There's all different types of Instagram communities going on, Facebook communities. Meetup is a great place to find in real life groups, or the Shut Up and Write crew. If you just Google Shut Up and Write, you'll find meetings that are local to you where people are writing together. So first you meet the people. You see, is there a flying V around here? Is there another goose that I can team up with? And then you start flying together and you share all of these roles. It's a step-by-step process. But the first thing you have to do is be brave enough and say, I am a writer. Not I'm trying to be a writer, not I'm an aspiring writer. Number one, I am a writer. And then you will find someone else that says, I am a writer. And you connect. And then you lift each other up. And you fly together. And you find another writer. And they come along too. And you share the load. I love the story of the geese. I hope I've done it justice for you today. I hope you can see that the power in this type of community. And I want you to know that if you're one of the people that's connected to me, if you're flying alongside me, and if you want to join the flock, I'm all for it. But just know that there are going to be times that I am going to need to come around back and someone else is going to have to take the lead, because that's how this life works. We're all in it together. We're all flying together. And we're going north. We're going south. We're going to reach our goals together. And this is going to be a great year for everybody flying with me. I truly believe it. So with all that said, thanks again for listening. And I will talk to you next week. Remember, if you're tuning into the writing prompts on YouTube, it will be live on Friday. So just go over to NV Rivera on YouTube and check out week 5 writing prompts. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the Stop Writing Alone podcast wherever you're listening to this episode today. Then connect with us on Facebook at Stop Writing Alone Facebook page or in the Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera Facebook group. Check Instagram or Twitter where I'm at NV_Rivera to find links to our email newsletter.